Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ according to Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord Christ.
6 days after Peter had acknowledged Jesus as the Christ, the Son of the living God, Jesus took with him Peter and James and his brother John and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with him. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will make 3 dwellings here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While he was still speaking, suddenly a bright cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud a voice said, "This is my Son, the beloved. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." When the disciples heard this, they fell to the ground and were overcome by fear. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, "Get up and do not be afraid." And when they looked up, they saw no one except Jesus himself alone. As they were coming down from the mountain, Jesus ordered them, "Tell no one about the vision until after the Son of Man has been raised from the dead." Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
6 days before Jesus took the 3, Peter, James, and John, to the mountain, the whole group of disciples had been with him on the road. They had watched and listened as Jesus wrangled with Pharisees and Sadducees who wanted Jesus to show them signs. They had helped Jesus feed the 5,000 hungry people. And then Jesus had asked them the question, "Who do the people say that I am? Who do you say that I am?" Well, Peter was the first to say, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Jesus declared him to be the rock, the holder of the keys of heaven. Of course, it didn't take long for Peter to get into trouble. As Jesus began to tell the disciples what was ahead for him, the suffering, the death he would face, his rising on the 3rd day, Peter insisted that these things should not happen. Jesus then called him a stumbling block, who was setting his mind on human things rather than divine things. I can't help but think that was a little harsh. But maybe Jesus was feeling an urgency, a need to get these followers on board, to speed up their formation so that they would be equipped to carry on. They had been with him to hear his teaching, to see his healing, and were on the cusp of moving to the next level. Maybe that's why he took these 3 to the mountain. Nothing like a mountaintop experience to inspire, to leave one awestruck. And this one was a humdinger. In the first place, it was a mountain. Mountains have been significant since long before the people of Israel set out from Egypt. These high places, these peaks, sometimes enveloped in clouds, were places of mystery, seemingly closer to God in the 2 or 3 level universe that they inhabited. So this is where they believed significant encounters between the human and the divine happened. These disciples would have been familiar with the stories of encounters, especially the one we heard this morning from the Hebrew Scriptures. Moses called to Mount Sinai, his 40 days and nights within that fiery cloud, receiving the commandments from Yahweh, while the people stayed below, impatiently awaiting him. The disciples would have known the stories of the prophet Elijah, the one who was to return to announce the coming of the Messiah. So, with all of that background and experience, the 3 watched as Jesus went on to the top of the mountain. All of the symbols were there. The appearance of Moses and Elijah, two of the greatest figures in all of Israel's faith. The change of Jesus' clothing to brilliant white and his face dazzling, just like that of Moses so many centuries earlier. Then the overshadowing cloud and the voice from on high. The same voice, virtually the same words heard at Jesus' baptism. This is my son, my chosen. Listen to him. Indeed, it was a mystical moment, a theophany. Well, being overwhelmed, Peter tried to deal with it in a very human way, to hold on to it, to preserve that transcendent moment, to build some dwellings and stay there on the mountain. How easy that would have been. But it cannot be. What happens in those mountaintop experiences is meant to change those involved forever. Not by remaining in the high place, but going back down into the valley, back to the world that they knew, and yet a world that had changed forever. We tend to think of this story as Jesus' transfiguration. It was more than that, of course. Those 3 disciples would never be the same. One commentator defines transfiguration as a moment in which the appearance of things is changed and transformed. Now, certainly Jesus' appearance was changed, but so was the understanding of those disciples. From there on, they would see things in a different way, in a different light, so to speak. That's what mountaintop experiences are like. They usually are calling us from one place to another. They call us to change or move us into paths that are unknown or even scary. Today, we are observing Black History Month here at Grace Church. This may call another mountaintop to mind, the one that Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of just 24 hours before he died. He said then, "I've been to the mountaintop. I just want to do God's will, and he's allowed me to go up to the mountain, and I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we, as a people, will get to the promised land." Certainly, the way we here in the 21st century look at race has been transformed from even 100 years ago, 50 years ago. We no longer think that owning another human being is okay, or that slaves had it good when they had good masters who took care of them. We no longer consider people of color to be only 3/5 of a person. Yet we have a long, long way to go before all are treated equally as people created by God, deserving of dignity and respect. I confess that I worry about celebrations like today. I worry that as a primarily white congregation in a primarily white city, saying a prayer, singing a hymn, eating soul food may be just token gestures that make us feel good about ourselves. That it may not be transfiguring and life-changing. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that the words of our final hymn today, known as the Negro National Anthem, will jar us. That we will see with new eyes the stony road, the chastening rod. That we will feel, at least in our hearts, the weight of the way that with tears has been watered and the path through the blood of the slaughtered. And that we will leave this place changed in some measure, at least with eyes that are willing to see the persistent legacy of slavery and Jim Crow that still today eats away at our society. It is there. It is real. And I am convinced that the promised land, God's dream and intent for all of us, will not be fulfilled until it is so for all. The writer of 2 Peter speaks of the prophecies shown forth at the mountaintop on that day long ago. He says, "So we have the prophetic message more fully confirmed. You will do well to be attentive to this, as to a lamp shining in a dark place, until the day dawns and the morning star rises in your hearts." So as this Transfiguration Sunday brings to an end the season of light, the Epiphany, where God is revealed and made known to us in Jesus and his ministry, may we enter the Lenten journey looking to that lamp shining in a dark place. Let it guide us in our journey, in our new eyes and understanding. For through the eyes of the prophets, of Peter, James, and John, and of all who have followed Christ's way of justice and peace, we have seen the glory of God. So let us look, let us listen, let us grow until the day dawns and the morning star rises in each of our hearts. May it be so.